A quick throwback video this week. This is the Resistance 2 toy of Nathan Hale with Swarmer from the company DC Comics, which yes, that is a very confusing company to research when you're trying to look up anything about these toys or any other toy line that they produced. These Resistance toys look to have released around the same time as the game series, specifically the second one. If this reaches a wider audience and anyone can tell me anything at all about the production of these, I would love to know more. We have here Nathan Hale, the main protagonist at least of the second game, here with a Swarmer enemy type. You can see that I managed to get this figure for only $15 down from $40, and I believe I bought him at some sort of a convention about a decade ago. At that time, I hadn't actually played through any of those games at that point. I actually bought this more as an investment for later in life because I do really like PlayStation exclusive titles, and I figured I would play it eventually and probably really like it. Video game action figures are a personal favorite of mine. I'm always chasing for more of the niche ones like this guy. The back of the box here shows us the complete wave, which mostly consisted of other Chimera enemies plus Hale. We have a description here on the back of the box all about the game series and the names of the figures that released here as well. This is a figure that I had already opened in the past. Let's get into it. Out of the box here we have our figure, and I really love packaging that can be used for displays as well. This gives us a diorama backdrop for Hale, but more importantly we have advertisements here that we can cover as well. This features an advertisement for the Ratchet and Clank figures that released for the future game series. This is a sour point in collecting for me. I've been chasing after these figures for more than a decade now, and the prices that I've seen them at are just brutal in NZ currency. They look amazing. These Ratchet and Clank figures are my white whale. And on the other side here we have a neat advertisement for the Resistance figures as well. I'd love it if PlayStation and Insomniac maybe teamed up with a different toy line again to produce more figures. Now, in the present day, it'd mean a lot to me. This Nathan Hale figure is actually pretty cool. He has a bit more articulation than I originally thought he would, given how small he is in comparison to the usual action figures that I collect, and the details actually look pretty good up close as well. Sometimes video game figures can look pretty rough around the edges, especially in the likeness translations, but I really like the military details he has here with the coloring and those ammo pouches. His overall design works really well. He does feel like a direct translation of a 2009 video game, and I have a good love and appreciation soft spot for that era of gaming specifically. For his articulation that I mentioned, Nathan has some nice rotates in his head, some slight movements for up and down, but mostly just side to side. His arms can move outwards, but that's about as far as I was able to get it really. Full rotations though at the very least. He's got some rotates here in his upper arm, and right below he has a single bend in the elbow joint. There are no bends in the hands, but rotates are made available here. The exact same movements can be said for the other arm, which moves the exact same way. We don't have any movements for his chest or his hips or anything like that, but for the legs we do have some decent movements here. Legs can move up about to the halfway mark and on both sides. There are no rotations on the knees, just single bend joints. There are no bends in the feet either, just a single rotate joint. Standing test, it's a bit finicky, but otherwise he's actually pretty simple. The real highlight of this figure for me is the inclusion of the enemy type here in the Swarmer. This is really cool to have. It is a fully molded figure inclusion that even has some articulation on offer. The Swarmer is a pretty annoying enemy in the game that moves within a herd, and it appears pretty frequently throughout the series as well, so it's a really great inclusion to have here. That back pincer is a rubber-like material, but there's no bendy wire or anything in here for display options. Some up-close shots of the gnarly expression here, lots of eyes, some really nice sharp teeth. It's really cool to see up close. As I mentioned, it does actually feature some articulation in the legs specifically. They are fully movable, so you can manipulate it to be posed however you want for your display. It's a great inclusion or an accessory or whatever exactly you want to call it. Besides that, Hale also has this display base, which is just plain in its design. There's nothing really here besides some copyright information underneath. The weapon he's included with is the Bullseye rifle. Looks like a really cool piece that's unique to that franchise as well. I'm a little disappointed that we only have one weapon though, given that he can carry two at a time. I would have loved to have seen just a simple carbine rifle here as well. Foot pegs into the stand really nice and easy. Only one foot that can do that though, the other foot doesn't have an exposed point there, and the gun can fit into his right hand nice and easy. The left hand is molded to always be supporting that weapon, but it cannot actually hold the weapon itself. This makes it very easy to recreate the box art imagery, which I do appreciate. And now, size comparison wise, here he is next to a standard Hasbro Marvel Legends figure. Right away there is a clear difference in its scale, but what does he look like compared to other video game action figures? Here he is compared to some figures that I have from the McFarlane, NECA, and Jazzwares line. Most video game figures that I collect do come in this scale, so he is out of place amongst these guys, but it's still an interesting video game based toy that I like to see for my shelf. I like this Resistance toy of Nathan Hale quite a bit overall. I bought this years ago before I would have played through that series myself, and I'm glad that I did make that call because it's a really interesting piece for my display. I think the added bonus of including an enemy type is also really great to see, especially since it's highly unlikely that I'll ever get my hands on any of the other figures from the series. It's a solid piece for my display for the scale that he comes in, and it's going to stand out really well.